The monitoring station at the edge of human space was quiet that morning. It was always quiet. Lieutenant Sarah Park sat at her console, drinking bad coffee and watching empty screens. Nothing ever happened out here. That was the point. Then the alert came. Not a warning. Not a distress call. Just data. Automated. Cold. The kind of transmission that ships sent when there was no one left alive to send anything else. Sarah sat up. Coffee forgotten. The transmission came from New Compassion. A colony world. 47,000 people. Farmers mostly. Teachers. Engineers. Families. The data streamed across her screen. 14 hours of sensor recordings. Sarah's hands went cold as she read. Orbital bombardment. Systematic. Complete. Every settlement. Every structure. Every life support system. Turned to ash and glass. No warning had been sent. No demands made. No chance to surrender. Just murder. Sarah's supervisor came running when she called. Then her supervisor's supervisor. Within an hour, 20 people crowded the monitoring room. No one spoke much. They just watched the data repeat. Watched the thermal signatures of the weapons. Watched the timestamps that showed exactly how long it took to kill 47,000 human beings. 12 hours and 16 minutes. The attack signatures were clear. The weapons were Karathi. The ship classifications were Karathi. Everything pointed to the Karathi Dominion. Humanity had traded with the Karathi for 80 years. Neutral relations. No conflicts. No disputes. They sold the Karathi medical equipment. The Karathi sold humanity rare minerals. Simple. Clean. Peaceful. Sarah stared at the screen. Why would they do this? No one had an answer. The data went up the chain. Military Command. Diplomatic Corps. Earth Central Command. Everyone who mattered saw it within 24 hours. And then humanity did something strange. Nothing. 3 days later, the Galactic Council met for their monthly session. Representatives from 200 species gathered in the massive station that orbited the neutral world of Axis Prime. Debates about trade routes. Arguments about mining rights. The usual political theater. Ambassador Elena Voss sat in the human delegation section. She was 58 years old. Gray hair pulled back. Sharp eyes that missed nothing. She had represented humanity for 12 years. The Karathi delegation sat 3 sections away. High Commander Jarek led them. He was tall even by Karathi standards. Purple skin, 4 arms, a warrior's build. He wore his military honors across his chest like a challenge. Jarek laughed during the session, made jokes with other delegates, acted like he owned the room. Ambassador Voss watched him. Her face showed nothing. When the session opened for new business, Voss did not stand, did not speak. The human delegation remained silent through the entire 4-hour meeting. Other species noticed. The Ascendi ambassador, an ancient being named Thelmar, kept glancing at the human section, waiting. But Voss just took notes and said nothing. When the session ended, Jarek walked past the human delegation. He smiled at Voss. A predator's smile. She smiled back. Polite. Empty. That night, Dr. Amara Chen sat in her small office on Earth. She was civilian, not military, not government, just an analyst who studied xenopolitical patterns for a research institute. But someone had sent her the New Compassion data, classified, encrypted, with a note that said only, "We need outside perspective." Amara read through the sensor logs, read them again, then a third time. The attack pattern was wrong. Not strategically wrong, tactically perfect, but wrong. The Karathi had bombed every settlement, every farm, every water treatment plant. They had hunted down the escape pods, shot down the fleeing civilian transports, spent 12 hours making absolutely certain that nothing survived. That wasn't conquest. That wasn't even war. That was extermination. Amara pulled up Karathi diplomatic history, found their military doctrine files, read their cultural studies. The Karathi respected strength, feared nothing, considered most species beneath them. But they were not stupid. They picked fights they could win, tested enemies carefully, measured responses. New Compassion was a test. Amara felt her stomach turn. The Karathi had murdered 47,000 people to see what humanity would do about it. She wrote her analysis, marked it urgent, sent it to the contact who had given her the data. The response came back in 1 hour. Correct. Stand by. 3 weeks passed. Humanity did nothing visible. Ships kept flying. Diplomats kept talking. Trade continued. Human freighters delivered medical supplies to Karathi space stations. Human engineers maintained the FTL relay network that connected Karathi worlds to the wider galaxy. Business as usual. High Commander Jarek sat in his flagship orbiting the Karathi homeworld. His second-in-command stood beside him. "The humans have done nothing," the second said. "No protests, no sanctions, nothing." Jarek nodded. "They are weak. As we suspected. Should we proceed with the second operation?" Jarek smiled. "Yes. Target Prosperity Station. Let us see if 120,000 deaths finally makes them react." On Earth, Ambassador Voss sat in her small apartment. She had not slept well in 3 weeks. The same nightmare every night. New compassion burning. Children screaming. Families dying. She sat at her desk and wrote a message to Earth Central Command. Just one line. "Confirm. Full protocol authorization?" The response came back in under a minute. 2 words that changed everything. "Confirmed. Proceed." Voss closed her eyes, took a long breath, opened a drawer in her desk and pulled out a folder. The cover was plain. No markings. Inside was a single document. Old. Printed on actual paper. The title read, "The Clockwork Protocol. For use only when survival demands it." Voss had never read it before. It was the kind of thing you hoped stayed buried forever. The kind of plan humanity made after they nearly went extinct. After they learned what it meant to be helpless. She read it now. Every page, every step, every calculated consequence. When she finished, her hands were shaking. Not from fear, from something colder. She picked up her secure communicator and contacted 20 different departments. Logistics, finance, medical, infrastructure, manufacturing. Each conversation was brief. Each one ended the same way. Authorization confirmed. Begin. Phase 1. Across human space, thousands of people received encrypted orders. Freight supervisors, station managers, algorithm designers, maintenance crews. People who kept the galaxy running and never got thanked for it. They read their orders. Some hesitated. Most did not. They had all seen the new compassion data. They began making small changes. Tiny adjustments. Nothing obvious. Nothing that would trigger alarms. A shipment delayed here. A maintenance window scheduled there. A software update pushed to servers that controlled things most species never thought about. The galaxy did not notice. Not yet. But in 3 weeks, it would. Ambassador Voss locked the Clockwork Protocol back in her drawer. She poured herself a drink, did not touch it, just sat in the dark and waited. Waited for the Karathi to make their second mistake. They did not disappoint. The Karathi second strike happened exactly 3 weeks after New Compassion died. Prosperity Station was different from the colony. Not farmers and families. This was a logistics hub. Warehouses. Distribution centers. The kind of place where goods from 100 worlds got sorted and shipped to 1,000 destinations. 120,000 people worked there, lived there, had children in the station schools, and ate at the restaurants in the commerce district, and complained about rent prices like people everywhere. The Karathi fleet arrived without warning. 12 warships. They disabled the station's defenses in under an hour. Then they started firing. It took 8 hours this time. The station's hull was tougher than planetary settlements. But the Karathi were thorough. They made sure every section was exposed to vacuum. Every life support system destroyed. Every escape pod hunted down. When they finished, High Commander Jarek broadcast a message on open channels. Made sure every species in the galaxy could hear. "This is pest control," he said. "Humanity spreads too far, claims too much. We are simply trimming the infestation." The galactic response was immediate. Outrage, condemnation, strongly worded statements from 24 governments, but no action, no sanctions, no fleets mobilized, just words. The Karathi had calculated correctly. No one wanted to start a war over dead humans. Humanity's official response came 6 hours later. A single statement from Earth Central Command. 16 words. "We have received the message. We are considering our response." That is all. Jarek laughed when he heard it, called his officers together and celebrated. They had tested the humans twice, killed over 160,000 of them, and gotten nothing back but corporate doublespeak. The humans were cowards. Weak. Pathetic. The Karathi began planning their next moves. Maybe hit a mining outpost. Maybe a research station. Keep pushing until the humans either fought back or abandoned their territory completely. Jarek did not know that 400 years ago, another species had made the same mistake. Dr. Amara Chen stood in front of a classified briefing room. 40 people sat in the audience. Military officers, intelligence analysts, economic specialists, not politicians, not diplomats, just the people who actually ran things. The room was deep under Earth Central Command, shielded, secure. The kind of place where uncomfortable truths got discussed. Amara brought up a historical file. The title made several people shift in their seats. The Siege of Terra, 400 years ago. Everyone knew the story. Humanity's darkest hour. The Vrin Compact had been a massive empire. Hundreds of worlds, thousands of ships. They had seen Earth as a resource. Humanity as cheap labor. When humans refused to submit, the Vrin attacked. Orbital bombardment. Blockades. Systematic destruction. They were going to break humanity or exterminate them. Simple choice. What happened next became legend. Humanity did not win a military victory. Could not. The Vrin had 10 ships for every one human vessel. Instead, humanity stopped working. Amara showed the data. At the time of the Vrin attack, human companies controlled 40% of galactic logistics. We processed raw materials, maintained relay stations, operated refineries. We were the backbone that no one paid attention to. She clicked to the next slide. When the Vrin attacked, we shut it all down. Every human-operated facility went dark. Every contract canceled. Every maintenance schedule suspended. The economic collapse took 8 months. Species that relied on human-refined metals could not build ships. Worlds that depended on human-maintained FTL relays lost contact with their colonies. Medical supply chains broke down. Food shipments failed. 200 civilizations screamed for help. The Galactic Council demanded humanity resume operations. Humanity's response had been simple. Make the Vrin stop first. The Vrin refused. They would not negotiate with prey. So the galaxy turned on them. Not out of justice. Not out of morality. Out of desperation. Species that had never fought a war in centuries mobilized fleets. Economic blocs formed. Sanctions crushed the Vrin economy. Within a year, the Vrin Compact was begging for terms. Humanity's demands were brutal. Total disarmament. 500 years of reparations. Permanent monitoring. The Vrin accepted every term. They had no choice. Amara let the room absorb the history. Then she brought up current data. 400 years ago, we controlled 40% of galactic logistics, she said. Today, 60%. And we're far more integrated. The slides showed the numbers. Human companies manufactured 75% of all FTL navigation buoys. Human facilities processed medical supplies for 3/4 of known space. Human engineers maintained the relay network that made instant communication possible. And the big one. The thing that made several officers lean forward. The universal credit system. The galactic currency. It runs on algorithms designed by human economists. The servers are in Sol system. We control access. We control transaction fees. We control verification protocols. One of the generals spoke up. Are you saying we can shut down the galactic economy? Amara met his eyes. I am saying we already are the galactic economy. We just never told anyone. The room went quiet. The briefing ended an hour later. Amara gathered her files and headed for the door. Ambassador Voss stopped her in the hallway. Good work, Voss said. What happens now? Amara asked. Voss smiled. It was not a kind smile. Now we teach the Karathi what silence costs. 2 days later, Voss met with Ambassador Thelmar of the Ascendi Union. The Ascendi were old, ancient. They had been civilized when humans were still banging rocks together. They had seen empires rise and fall, learned patience in units of millennia. Thelmar was 12 feet tall, crystalline skin that reflected light in strange colors, eyes that saw in spectrums humans could not. They met in a private garden on Axis Prime. No security, no recording devices. Just two beings who understood power. The Karathi are fools, Thelmar said without preamble. Voss nodded. Yes. What will you do? Voss looked at the alien plants growing in the garden. Flowers from a dozen worlds. We are going to remind them what silence costs. Thelmar made a sound like wind chimes, Ascendi laughter. 400 years ago you taught the Vryn. They still have not recovered. The Vryn attacked us in ignorance. The Karathi murdered us to test us. There is a difference. What difference? Voss turned to face the ancient being. The Vryn learned. The Karathi need a harsher lesson. Thelmar studied her. Those alien eyes seeing things human eyes could not. You will not fire a shot. No. You will make them collapse from within. Yes. How long? Voss considered. 3 months to break them. 6 months to make it permanent. Thelmar was quiet for a long moment. Then, the Ascendi Union will not interfere. We will observe. And when the Karathi beg for help, we will remind them that they chose this path. Voss bowed her head. Thank you. Do not thank me. I am simply old enough to recognize a species that survives by being essential. The Karathi see you as soft. They will learn that soft things can strangle slowly. The meeting ended. Voss returned to her quarters and sent one encrypted message to Earth. Phase 2. Authorized. Across human space, the small changes became slightly less small. Shipment delays that had been hours became days. Maintenance windows that were scheduled for quiet periods now blocked critical operations. Software updates added transaction processing times, just fractions of a second. But those fractions added up. The Karathi did not notice yet. Too busy celebrating their victories. Too certain of human weakness. They would notice soon enough. Deep in the bureaucratic machinery of Earth Central Command, the clockwork protocol moved to its next phase. Every step had been planned, centuries ago. Every consequence calculated. Every pressure point mapped. Humanity had learned an important lesson 400 years ago. The lesson that had saved them from extinction. War was expensive. War was visible. War ended. But economic strangulation? That was invisible. Deniable. And it never really ended. It just kept squeezing until there was nothing left to squeeze. The Karathi had started a war. They just did not know it yet. And by the time they figured it out, it would be far too late to stop what was coming. The bleeding started small. A hospital on the Karathi homeworld ran out of a critical antibiotic. Nothing dramatic. Just one medicine. The hospital contacted their supplier. Human company. Always reliable. The response came back within hours. Unexpected logistics challenges. Shipment delayed 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Patients could wait 2 weeks. Annoying but manageable. Except 3 other hospitals ran out of the same antibiotic the next day. Then 5 more. Then 20. All human suppliers. All experiencing unexpected logistics. Challenges. The Karathi medical director made calls. Yelled at customer service representatives. Demanded expedited shipping. The humans were very apologetic. Very understanding. Very sorry about the complications. The antibiotics still did not arrive. Within 2 weeks, Karathi hospitals started rationing. Critical patients first. Everyone else had to wait. Hope their infections did not get worse. Hope they did not die while waiting for medicine that used to arrive on schedule every single time. The Karathi government noticed. Sent angry messages to human medical companies. Got polite responses about supply chain disruptions and unforeseen complications. Nothing changed. Then the navigation buoys started going offline. FTL travel required precise navigation. Ships needed those buoys to make safe jumps. Without them, you could still travel. But it was slower. More dangerous. Like driving without streetlights. 12 sectors of space lost their human-maintained buoys in the same week. All sectors bordering Karathi space. The official explanation. Scheduled maintenance. Karathi merchant vessels started missing jump windows. Trade routes that took 3 days now took 6. Ships burned extra fuel taking longer routes. Profit margins evaporated. Karathi business leaders complained to their government. The government complained to the Galactic Council. Ambassador Voss listened to the Karathi complaints with polite concern. We are experiencing technical difficulties across multiple systems. We are working to resolve them as quickly as possible. How long? The Karathi representative demanded. Voss checked her notes. Difficult to say. These things take time. This is unacceptable. We understand your frustration. Unfortunately, maintenance cannot be rushed without compromising safety. The Karathi representative stormed out of the session. Voss returned to her seat and continued taking notes. 3 weeks into the protocol, the Universal Credit System experienced what human technicians called server optimization. Transaction fees for Karathi accounts increased by 0.3%. 0.3%. Barely noticeable on individual transactions. A rounding error. Except the Karathi Dominion processed billions of transactions every day. 0.3% of billions was not a rounding error. It was 40 billion credits. Every single day, the Karathi finance minister brought economists together, made them run the numbers, made them check again. The math was clear. Humanity was bleeding them dry, with a fee increase so small, it should not matter. But it did matter. It mattered enormously. The minister tried to negotiate with human financial institutions, got meetings with polite executives who explained that server optimization was necessary for system stability. Very technical. Very complicated. The fees stayed. Dr. Amara Chen sat in the logistics command center, watching data streams in real time. The center was new, built in the last 3 weeks. A massive room filled with displays showing every human operation across the galaxy. Supply chains, maintenance schedules, transaction flows, everything. She could see the pressure building. Karathi hospital systems running at 60% capacity. Trade routes collapsing. Financial reserves draining. All the small cuts adding up to a hemorrhage. How long until they break? Asked the officer beside her. Amara studied the projections. Economic models say 3 months, but I think faster. Why? Because the Karathi respect strength. They understand military power, but they do not understand this. To them, it looks like accidents. Bad luck. They keep waiting for it to stop on its own. The officer nodded. And it will not stop. No, it will get worse. Ambassador Voss traveled constantly, meeting with representatives from dozens of species. Always the same message. Always delivered in private. No recordings. No official statements. She sat across from the Telrathi ambassador, a species known for their extensive trade networks. We want to be clear, Voss said. If Karathi forces engage Sol system, all human logistics operations cease galaxy-wide for 10 years. The Telrathi ambassador went very still. 10 years? Minimum. Permanently if we lose. That would collapse the entire galactic economy. Yes. The Telrathi said nothing for a long moment. Then, what do you want from us? Nothing. Just making sure you understand the stakes. Voss had the same conversation 40 times, with 40 different species. Some tried to argue, some tried to find alternatives, some just accepted the reality. By the end of the month, 60 civilizations had quietly contacted the Karathi government, all delivering the same message. Stand down, or we consider you a threat to galactic stability. High Commander Jarek ignored every single warning. He sat in his command center, surrounded by advisors. Military strength was all that mattered. Economic pressure was for the weak. The humans are bluffing, he told his staff. They lack the spine for real conflict. Once we crush Earth, they will have no choice but to restore services. His economic minister tried to object. Commander, our reserves are depleting faster than projected. If this continues, it will not continue, Jarek interrupted. We will end it. Prepare the fleet. The minister fell silent. No one argued with Jarek. Not twice. The Karathi Dominion mobilized the largest military fleet in their history. 800 warships, every vessel they could spare. Some they could not spare but brought anyway. Destination. Sol system. They would force humanity to restore services, force them to back down, prove that military might trumped economic games. The fleet took 18 days to reach human space. 18 days of travel time that the Karathi spent preparing for glorious battle. 18 days that humanity spent making phone calls. Ambassador Voss worked around the clock. No sleep. Barely any food. Just constant communication. Every species that relied on human infrastructure got a visit. A message. A very clear explanation of consequences. The Galactic Council received a formal statement from Earth Central Command. Very polite. Very professional. Very terrifying. If Karathi forces engage Sol system, Humanity will implement full economic isolation protocols. All maintenance operations will cease. All supply contracts will be suspended. All financial system access will be revoked. These measures will remain in effect for a minimum of 10 standard years, regardless of conflict outcome. We recommend all affected parties prepare accordingly. Panic spread through the galaxy faster than the Karathi fleet could travel. Governments held emergency sessions. Corporations calculated losses. Species that had never spoken to each other suddenly had very urgent conversations about how to stop the Karathi. The Ascendi Union released a public statement. Short. Direct. The Karathi Dominion has threatened galactic stability. Any attack on Sol system will be considered an attack on the economic foundation of civilized space. We will respond accordingly. 140 other species signed supporting statements within 24 hours. The Karathi fleet kept coming. Jarek refused to back down, refused to show weakness. Military honor demanded completion. Dr. Amara Chen watched the fleet approach on long-range sensors, watched the diplomatic channels explode with desperate attempts to stop what was coming. They are not going to turn around, she said quietly. No, agreed the admiral beside her. Jarek is committed. He would rather die than admit he was wrong. What happens when they arrive? The admiral smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. They discover that we did not need to mobilize a single warship. The Karathi fleet dropped out of FTL at the edge of Sol system exactly 18 days after departure. 800 warships. The pride of the Karathi Dominion, ready for glorious battle. They ran sensor sweeps, looked for human defensive fleets, looked for weapons platforms, looked for anything that would indicate Earth was preparing to fight. They found nothing. No military response. No fleets. No defenses. Just standard system traffic and a single transmission on open channels. Ambassador Elena Voss spoke directly to High Commander Jarek. Her voice was calm, professional. The voice of someone explaining simple facts to a child. You destroyed New Compassion. 47,000 dead. You destroyed Prosperity Station. 120,000 dead. You did this to test us, to see if we were weak. Jarek listened, waited for threats, for bluster. Voss continued. We are not weak. We are patient. You want war? War is expensive. War is visible. War ends. We prefer consequences that compound. She paused. Let the words sink in. Effective immediately. All human logistics operations in Karathi space are suspended indefinitely. All medical supply chains severed. All navigation buoy maintenance ceased. All financial system access revoked. Your currency is no longer compatible with universal credit. You are economically exiled. Jarek's face darkened. You cannot. We can. We have. You have 72 hours to withdraw your fleet and issue formal reparations. Or we extend this embargo, galaxy-wide, to any species that trades with you. We will not fire a shot. We will simply stop. And you will collapse. The transmission ended. Jarek sat in stunned silence. Then rage filled him. All ships, prepare to attack. His second-in-command looked pale. Commander, 200 Allied fleets just dropped out of FTL around us. Jarek spun to the sensor display. The screen was full of ships. Not human. Ships from species across the galaxy. All arranged in a blockade formation. The Ascendi flagship transmitted. You were warned. High Commander Jarek stared at the tactical display. 800 Karathi warships. 400 Allied vessels surrounding them. Not attacking. Just waiting. The Ascendi flagship held position directly ahead. Massive. Ancient. A ship that had fought in wars before the Karathi even had spaceflight. Jarek's communications officer looked terrified. Commander, we are receiving hails from 17 different fleets, all demanding we stand down. Ignore them, Jarek said. But his voice lacked conviction. His second-in-command stepped closer, spoke quietly. Commander, if we attack Earth, every ship out there will fire on us. We cannot win. We are Karathi. We do not surrender. This is not surrender. This is tactical reassessment. Jarek wanted to give the order, wanted to prove that military might still mattered, that strength was not measured in credits and supply chains. But he was not suicidal. Not completely. The Karathi fleet held position for 6 hours. Jarek sent angry messages to his government, demanded support, demanded reinforcements. The Karathi High Council's response was 3 words. Return home immediately. Jarek read the message twice. Felt something break inside him. All ships. Prepare for FTL jump. Course. Home. The fleet turned. 800 warships retreating without firing a shot. The Allied vessels did not move. Just watched them go. Ambassador Voss stood in the Human Command Center on Earth. Watched the Karathi fleet disappear from sensors. They will be back, someone said. Voss shook her head. No, this is over. How can you be sure? Because Jarek just lost the one thing the Karathi respect. Military honor. He brought the largest fleet in their history and retreated because we made phone calls. His government will not forgive that. Dr. Amara Chen pulled up economic data. Karathi financial systems are in free fall. The embargo cost them 8% of their GDP in the last 3 days alone. Keep the pressure, Voss ordered. No relief until they agree to terms. The Karathi High Council met in emergency session. Jarek was not invited. Guards escorted him to a detention facility while the council debated. The economic minister presented the numbers. They were catastrophic. At current rates, we have 6 weeks before complete economic collapse. Medical systems are failing. Food distribution is breaking down. Our currency is worthless outside our borders. The military chief tried to object. We should fight. Launch everything we have at Earth. And then what? The economic minister snapped. Even if we win, we lose. The humans made that clear. They shut down, and we starve. No food. No medicine. No trade. We cannot eat warships. The council argued for 18 hours. Pride versus survival. Honor versus reality. Survival won. The Karathi High Council sent a formal message to Earth Central Command. Short. Humiliating. Necessary. We request terms. Ambassador Voss read the message in her office. Felt no satisfaction, no joy, just exhaustion. She had killed no one, fired no weapons. But she had brought an empire to its knees. The weight of that sat heavy. She drafted humanity's terms, sent them to Earth Central Command for approval, got authorization within the hour. The terms were brutal. Designed not just to punish but to prevent this from ever happening again. 500 years of reparations. Payments to the families of every person killed at New Compassion and Prosperity Station. Payments calculated to hurt. To remind the Karathi every single day what their test had cost. Full disarmament of offensive fleet capabilities. The Karathi could keep defensive ships, system patrol vessels, but no more warships that could threaten other species. Economic restructuring under human supervision. The Karathi would rebuild their economy with human auditors watching every transaction. Making sure they learned the lesson. Public memorials. Physical monuments to the 167,000 murdered humans placed on the Karathi homeworld, where every citizen would see them. Remember what pride cost. And one more term. The one that would hurt most. High Commander Jarek would be extradited to the Galactic Council for trial. Face justice for crimes against sentient beings. No military honors. No warrior's death. Just prison. The Karathi High Council read the terms. Understood they had no choice. They signed. Within 48 hours, human logistics operations resumed. Medical shipments arrived at Karathi hospitals. Navigation buoys came back online. Transaction fees returned to normal rates. The galaxy breathed a sigh of relief. Trade resumed. Supply chains stabilized. Crisis averted. But something had changed. Something fundamental. Every species in the galaxy had watched humanity bring the Karathi to their knees without firing a shot. Had seen what happened when you tested human patience. The lesson spread fast. Ambassador Thelmar of the Ascendi Union released a public statement. The ancient being's words carried weight across civilized space. Humanity did not win because they are strong. They won because they are embedded. The galaxy runs on their patience. This council recommends that all member species review their economic dependencies and consider the implications carefully. The implication was clear. Do not test humanity. They do not need warships. They already own the roads. Dr. Amara Chen published her analysis 6 weeks later. Academic paper. Dry language. Devastating conclusions. Economic integration as deterrence. How humanity learned to win without fighting. The paper showed the numbers. 60% of galactic logistics, 75% of critical medical supplies, 80% of FTL navigation infrastructure. The universal credit system. Humanity was not just part of the galactic economy. They were the foundation, and foundations could crumble by choice. The Karathi situation became a case study, taught in military academies across the galaxy. How not to provoke an embedded species. High Commander Jarek stood trial at the Galactic Council. The proceedings took 8 months. Every detail of the attacks examined, every decision questioned. The evidence was overwhelming. Deliberate murder, crimes against sentient beings, testing an enemy through genocide. The verdict: guilty on all counts. Sentence: life imprisonment on a neutral world. No parole, no appeal. Jarek was led away in restraints. Once a proud military commander. Now, a cautionary tale. The reparations began flowing. Credits transferred from Karathi accounts to human ones. The families of New Compassion and Prosperity Station received payments every month, would continue receiving them for 500 years. Some used the money to rebuild, some donated it to memorial funds, some just put it away, unable to touch what they called blood money. The money could not bring back the dead, could not undo the trauma, but it was something, an acknowledgement, a price paid. The Karathi economy restructured under human oversight. Teams of auditors moved to Karathi space, reviewed every contract, every transaction, looking for signs of military buildup, signs of aggression. The Karathi hated it, felt the shame of occupation without armies. But they complied, had no choice. Their warships were dismantled, weapons systems removed, crews reassigned. The Karathi military became a shadow, defensive only, no projection of power. The memorials were built on the Karathi homeworld. 7 massive structures, each one listing the names of the dead. 47,000 from New Compassion, 120,000 from Prosperity Station. Every name carved in stone, every life remembered. Karathi citizens walked past them every day. Children asked their parents what they meant. Parents had to explain, had to tell the story of Jarek's arrogance and humanity's patience. The shame spread through generations. A cultural wound that would not heal. Ambassador Voss visited the memorials 1 year after the war ended. Stood in front of the carved names. Read each one. A Karathi citizen approached her. Young, maybe 20 years old. Spoke in halting English. I am sorry for what we did. Voss looked at the young Karathi. Saw genuine remorse. You did nothing wrong. This was not your choice. But it was done in my name. By my people. Then learn from it. Make sure it never happens again. The young Karathi bowed. Walked away. Voss hoped the lesson would stick. She returned to Earth 3 weeks later. Submitted her resignation as ambassador. 12 years was enough. Time for someone else. She wrote a memoir. Published it 2 years later. The title was simple. We do not win wars. We win the peace that makes wars obsolete. The book became required reading in diplomatic schools across human space. A manual for power without violence. Dr. Amara Chen took over as head of Human Logistics Command. The position was new, created specifically to prevent another Karathi situation. Her job was simple. Make humanity so essential that no one would dare attack. Make the galaxy so dependent on human infrastructure that war became unthinkable. She was very good at her job. Human companies expanded operations. More relay stations. More medical facilities. More manufacturing plants. Always framed as helping, as service, as being good galactic citizens. But everyone understood the subtext. Every new facility was a pressure point. Every new service was a lever. Humanity tightened their grip on the galaxy's throat. Gently, carefully, invisibly. And the galaxy let them. Because the alternative was chaos. The Clockwork Protocol was sealed again, updated with new data, new protocols, lessons learned from the Karathi situation. It sat in secure storage, waiting for the next species stupid enough to test humanity. The document's new cover note was simple. Last used, Karathi Dominion. Result: complete economic capitulation in 73 days. 0 casualties on human side. No one wanted to be the next entry in that document. 20 years passed. The galaxy changed in small ways, peaceful ways. Trade flourished. conflicts resolved through negotiation. No major wars. Historians called it the Long Peace. Credited improved diplomacy, better communication, evolved civilizations, learning to coexist. They were half right. The other half was fear. Every species remembered the Karathi, remembered how fast they fell, how complete their defeat, how humanity had done it without firing a shot. The lesson was carved into galactic consciousness. Do not test the patient ones. Do not assume quiet means weak. The memorials on the Karathi homeworld became pilgrimage sites. Not for Karathi, for other species. Diplomats, military leaders, anyone who needed to understand what real power looked like. They stood in front of those carved names. Read the history. Learned what happened when you murdered humans to see what they would do. New Compassion was rebuilt, not as a colony, as a memorial world. Gardens where settlements once stood, parks named after the dead, a place of remembrance. 40,000 people lived there. Families of the victims, historians, teachers, people who believed memory mattered. Sarah Martinez was born there. Never knew her great-grandmother. The woman had died at New Compassion during the original attack. But Sarah grew up with her name, her story, her stolen future. Sarah became a teacher, taught galactic history to children who came from dozens of species, made sure everyone knew what happened. Why it mattered. One day, a Karathi student sat in her class, 15 years old. Exchange program. The first Karathi to visit New Compassion since the attack. The kid was terrified, kept apologizing, kept saying it was not his fault. Sarah stopped him. You are right. It was not your fault. You were not even born yet. But my people did this. Yes. And your people paid. Are still paying. Will pay for centuries. That is enough. How can you teach me? After what we did? Sarah looked at the scared kid. Saw genuine remorse. Saw someone trying to carry shame that was not theirs to carry. Because breaking the cycle matters more than holding grudges. You did not kill anyone. You are here to learn. That is what I care about. The kid stayed, learned, went home and told others. More Karathi came, studied the memorials, met the families, carried the lessons back. Slowly, painfully, the wound began to scar. Dr. Amara Chen retired after 25 years running Human Logistics Command. She was 70 years old, tired, ready to rest. Her replacement was younger, sharper, had new ideas about integration and efficiency. But Chen made sure they understood the basics. We do not do this for profit, she said during the transition. We do this for survival. Every relay station we build is a reason not to attack us. Every medical facility is a life we save, and a debt they owe. This is not business. This is existence. The new commander understood, took the job seriously, expanded operations even further. Humanity's economic integration reached 85%. Nearly every essential service in the galaxy touched human infrastructure somewhere. The galaxy accepted it, welcomed it even. Because human reliability was legendary. When humans said a shipment would arrive, it arrived. When humans maintained something, it stayed maintained. Trust built over decades, embedded so deep that no one questioned it anymore. The Ascendi Union published a study. 500 years of galactic history, patterns of power, rise and fall of empires. The conclusion surprised many. Humanity has achieved what no other species managed. Total strategic dominance without conquest. They own nothing by force, everything by necessity. Ambassador Thelmar, now nearly 500 years old, gave an interview about the study. The mistake is thinking humanity is peaceful, Thelmar said. They are not. They are patient. There is a difference. Peace is the absence of capacity for violence. Patience is the choice to delay violence until it becomes unnecessary. The interviewer asked, "Do you think humanity will ever use the clockwork protocol again?" Thelmar's crystalline face reflected light in thoughtful patterns. They use it every day, just very slowly. Every contract signed, every system maintained, every species that becomes dependent. That is the protocol. Constant, invisible, inevitable. The Karathi Dominion rebuilt over 2 decades. New economy, new military doctrine, new culture. The younger generation grew up with the memorials, with the shame, with the monthly reparation payments that reminded them what pride cost. Some became bitter, blamed humanity for their humiliation. Most learned, understood that their ancestors had tested the wrong species in the wrong way. A Karathi author published a book, The Test We Failed. It became mandatory reading in Karathi schools. The book was honest, painful, described every mistake Jarek made, every warning ignored, every consequence earned. The final chapter was simple. We thought quiet meant weak. We thought patience meant fear. We thought we could kill humans and face no consequences. We were wrong about all of it. Human colonies expanded. New worlds, new settlements. Always careful. Always prepared. Every new colony had defense plans, evacuation protocols, emergency systems. The memory of new compassion and prosperity station lived in every blueprint. But no one attacked. No one tested. The long peace continued. Ambassador Elena Voss died at 89. Peaceful. Surrounded by family. Her funeral was attended by representatives from 70 species, including 3 Karathi diplomats who came to pay respects to the woman who had broken their empire without firing a shot. They laid flowers at her grave, spoke in their language, a prayer for the dead, an acknowledgement of worthy opponents. The humans there accepted it, understood that respect could exist alongside historical harm. Voss's memoir was updated posthumously. New foreword written by Dr. Chen. Elena understood something essential. Power is not about what you can destroy. It is about what you can withhold. The Karathi learned this lesson at terrible cost. May no other species need to learn it the same way. The Galactic Council established new protocols, economic interdependence treaties, mutual defense compacts, systems designed to prevent another Karathi situation. Every treaty had human fingerprints on it. Every protocol served human interests. Not obviously, not aggressively, just naturally. The galaxy had reorganized itself around human infrastructure, had built its foundation on human patience, and everyone pretended this was normal, natural, inevitable. Maybe it was. 50 years after the Karathi War, a new species called the Drexen made contact with the galaxy. Aggressive, expansionist, looking for territory. They scanned the major powers, assessed military strength, chose their targets. They looked at humanity, saw modest fleets, defensive posture, no major military presence. The Drexen Military Command began planning an attack on human space. Easy target, weak species, good place to establish dominance. An Ascendi diplomat heard about the plan, contacted the Drexen immediately. Before you attack humanity, I recommend you research the Karathi War. The Drexen commander dismissed it. Ancient history. Different circumstances. Read it anyway. Consider it a favor. The Drexen read the history, saw what happened, understood the implications. They canceled their attack plans, opened diplomatic channels instead, pursued trade agreements. The pattern repeated. Every few decades, some new species considered testing humanity. Someone always warned them, showed them the Karathi example. Most listened. A few did not. None of those few lasted long. The Clockwork Protocol had only been fully activated twice in 400 years. Both times against species who murdered humans to test them. Both times, the result was the same. Economic collapse. Diplomatic isolation. Complete capitulation. The protocol became myth. Legend. The thing everyone knew about but no one wanted to experience. On New Compassion Memorial World, children played in gardens that grew where 47,000 people had died. They learned the history, understood the cost, but they also learned the lesson, that humanity survived not by being the strongest, but by being essential. That patience was the longest weapon. That silence could speak louder than any threat. Sarah Martinez, now 70 years old, still taught. Still made sure new generations understood. A young human student asked her once, "Do you think we will ever be safe?" Really safe? Sarah considered the question. Safety is not about being unafraid. It is about being prepared. We are embedded in the galaxy now, so deep that attacking us means attacking everyone. That is as safe as any species gets. Is it enough? It has to be. The student accepted that. Moved on. Lived their life. The galaxy turned. Species rose and fell. Empires came and went. Wars happened in distant sectors. But human space stayed quiet. Productive. Essential. The transmission from New Compassion was archived. Preserved. Taught in every military academy. Every diplomatic school. The lesson was simple. Humanity does not forget. Does not forgive. Does not strike quickly. They strike slowly. Methodically. With patience measured in years. And consequences measured in generations. They prefer not to strike at all. Prefer to build. To help. To integrate. But when forced, when tested, they remember. And that memory becomes a weapon that cuts deeper than any blade, lasts longer than any war. The galaxy learned that lesson, carved it into their collective consciousness. Do not test humanity. Do not assume their patience is weakness. Do not make them choose between helping and surviving, because when humanity stops helping, civilizations end. Not with fire, not with conquest, with silence. The oldest weapon, the most patient revenge. The lesson that echoes across centuries. And in that silence, empires learn what it means to truly be alone.